Hey everybody, it's Emily at ARG Schooling, and welcome back to another episode of Homeschool Tidbits. Welcome to Build Your Library's Homeschool Tidbits. Today we're doing episode 55, How I Plan Our School Year. In this weekly video series, I will delve briefly into a topic related to homeschooling, and I'll share some of my knowledge and expertise as a longtime homeschooling mother of 4 children, 3 of whom have graduated high school, 1 who has graduated college, 1 who will be graduating college this coming year, and 1 who is just starting high school. So I've talked before about how I use notebooks for planning, and in my last tidbit I talked about big picture planning for high school. So today I wanted to talk about how I plan out just one single homeschool year. Now I'm going to try to walk you through my process in a coherent way, but the key factor that I want you to keep in mind as I'm sharing this is that this is how I do it. But it isn't how I necessarily think everyone should do it. It's what works for me. It's pretty simple. And that honestly is what works best for me. Let's start with step number 1, which is assess our needs and goals for the year. So my first step is to always just look at our needs for this particular year. So I might look back on last school year and think about how that went. I might think about what did and did not work for us. Do I need to change anything? Was there something that worked really, really well that we want to continue? Was there something that I had planned and really got excited about but just didn't work out that year? Can I move it to the next school year? Those kinds of things. Then I'll consider what our goals are, both big and small. So what needs to happen this year for us to reach those big goals, and where do we want to put our focus? So to give an example, this is going to be my daughter's 9th grade year. We're starting high school, and this year is when we're going to really start to hone her writing skills. So that is going to be a major focus this year. Now, I also made the executive decision that we needed to change up our math, which for us was huge because we've been using the same math program for as long as I can remember. We've been using teaching textbooks, and it's worked for us for years, but this last year in particular, it was just becoming a problem for us. For whatever reason, math started taking over our school day and really dragging everything down. So I decided, after much research, that we were going to start out this year with Denison Algebra. Now, I've heard really good things about this program, but I can't really talk too much about it yet because we haven't used it yet. I might share more later once we've gotten started. But if you want to know more about Denison Algebra, I would highly recommend checking out Arlene's channel, Arlene and Company. She has a whole video walkthrough of Denison Algebra that I found really super helpful. So if you want to know more, go check that out. I'll leave a link down below. I also always want to give my daughter the opportunity to choose for herself what she wants to learn. I want her to participate in her own education, and sometimes that means shaking up all my plans. But I offer suggestions so that I can kind of steer her on the course that I would like for us to go. But that doesn't always work out in my favor. This year I suggested we could do either level 8 or level 9 from Build Your Library, both perfectly good choices for 9th grade. And of course, being the kid that always keeps me on my toes, she was like, why not both? And she also has asked to learn coding. So I look at all of these things now as a puzzle. It's all pieces in a puzzle. Once that puzzle comes together, we have our routine. But in the meantime, they're just pieces. So how will I take all of these pieces and put them together to complete our routine? Step number 2 is where I basically dump out the puzzle box. I make a mess. I look over everything. And this is where I start to organize it. This is super easy if you're going to use Build Your Library as your main curriculum, because I've already started the puzzle for you. I've worked out the read-alouds, the organization of all of the history and the little working pieces, the poetry, all of that. So I've put together most of the puzzle for you. Now you just need to figure out how to fit in those extras like math and foreign language or additional language arts resources, all of those things. You're going to have to figure that part out, but the bulk is done for you. Now, since my daughter wants to do 2 levels at the same time, that's going to mean I need to sit down and figure that out. I have to work on creating a hybrid version for her. So this is where I'll sit down with my planner and piece everything together. I'm not trying to be detailed here. I'm just making a skeleton of our plan for the year. It's really more like a list, and mostly it's just figuring out how much math we're going to get done each week, how long each book is going to take to read, how many writing assignments am I going to assign her, which books will we read together and which ones will be independent reading, that sort of thing. Now, caveat, it is super easy to overplan. In fact, I am notorious for overplanning. It's what I do, and that's okay, because in the end we're looking for balance, and by the time we finish this process, we're going to find that balance. This is also when I set up all of our materials. I use utility carts to keep everything organized. Maybe you have a schoolroom or a bookshelf where you store everything, or maybe you have a desk where you keep all of your materials. Whatever, this is the time to get it all set up and looking really nice. This is what will give everyone, particularly me, motivation. Having a pretty space all set up and ready for us, ready to go. Now, step 3 is where I map out our first week back. Resist the urge to plan your whole year at once. Seriously, don't do it. Just plan out 1 week, and I recommend doing it in pencil or erasable pen. This gives you an idea of what your expectations are at the start of the year. Plan it all out in great detail. All the books you're going to read together, independent reading, how many chapters for each thing, for history, for science, projects, art, memory work, whatever. All the things that you hope to accomplish. Dream big here. This is your chance to plan the whole thing. This dream version of your homeschool year is going to be your test run for your plans to see how this all pans out. Writing in pencil means you can erase as you work, and you won't feel like a failure for not living up to your dream of a perfectly balanced, or let's be honest with ourselves, way overplanned homeschool year. And then step 4 is get started. Now, some people might have another step in between here, but that's not how my brain works. I can organize our materials, I can dream up big, exciting plans, but the actual nitty-gritty comes into play once we actually begin our year. This is where I see what materials are actually going to work well for us and what things we're going to end up setting aside. I'll be able to see how our routine is going to come together, and it's rarely what I dreamed up on paper. I need to actually do the things for at least a week or 2 before I can reasonably assess how everything is going and start to come up with a daily routine that will actually work well for us. It might take 2 to 3 weeks to figure out that routine, and that's perfectly fine. Those first weeks are adjustment, especially if you took the summer off, and especially even more so if you're just starting out. But once you fall into a routine, things are going to start to feel better. You're going to feel that flow. Now you can switch to writing out your plans in ink if you choose, because you'll have a better feel for what's going to work. So my final thoughts. Do you need a fancy planner or an expensive computer program to organize? Not really. I still like to have a notebook planner because it does help me with my big picture plans. And if you enjoy that, by all means, use that. I really like School Nest Planner for that reason. I think they're beautiful and they're easy to work with, but you don't need to spend a small fortune on planners or apps or any of that, unless it's something that definitely is going to work for you. And that's something you'll have to figure out for yourself. I honestly think you can do the same thing as a fancy planner with a calendar and a spiral notebook. It might take you a few years of playing with different planning methods before you hit on what does work best for you. Personally, I'm a fan of simplicity. The more complicated it is, the less likely I am to use it. So keep it simple, and you'll be able to stay the course. If you found this video helpful, I hope that you'll check out Build Your Library curriculum. Build Your Library is a secular, literature-rich homeschool curriculum inspired by Charlotte Mason's philosophy of education. Based on nearly 20 years of homeschooling, I created the curriculum that I wished I'd had when I first started homeschooling my children. I have spent thousands of hours cultivating the best literature to enhance your children's studies. Our lesson plans make homeschooling simple. Just open them up, gather your books, and go. Our easy-to-use lesson plans include everything you need to homeschool. Just add math. Choose from our full-year K-12 levels, as well as fun topical unit studies and our newest product, Lit Bites. With Build Your Library, you will cultivate a home library filled with captivating literature, and you'll raise children who become lifelong learners. So snuggle up with our lesson plans and a good book or three and have your best homeschool year ever. I hope you found this tidbit to be helpful. Let me know down below in the comments what is one tip you want to share for homeschool planning. Be sure to come back next week for more homeschooling inspiration. And until then, happy reading. Bye!